The Christian cold shoulder. I was talking to my friend about church discipline. She brought up the fact how people aren't disciplined in the church anymore. That we have become so seeker-friendly and never confront people's issues when they're living in sin, when they refuse to obey or change the glaring things that they know that they should. We've become very encouraging in some aspects and just tried to love people through it, through their issues, but I'm not sure that we've done them justice if there isn't consequences. In fact, she mentioned in our effort to change legislation to remove consequences, we've eliminated the need for a savior and the reality of God, that there is consequences to our actions, that there is a finality in judgment and the works that you perform and what account we will be called into for our lives. What I have seen in replacement of Christian discipline is the Christian cold shoulder. Instead of actually confronting someone and having to bravely communicate either what you see or how you feel or the concerns that you have for a brother or sister, because that requires personal integrity and that requires you to take the plank out of your own eye first, and that is difficult to do, and so few go on the pilgrimage to deal with our own personal baggage. We have chosen instead to punish people with distance and the cold shoulder. So instead of actually confronting someone and saying, hey, we don't want these kinds of actions and attitudes in our assembly of believers, and so if you don't change, we're going to have to ask you to leave, we have learned to politely distance ourselves or just ghost them altogether. That has become the replacement, the counterfeit, if you will, of Christian discipline. And it's very unfortunate because I've told many of my friends that my goal is to never choose distance, because if God's highest value for us is intimacy, then if we are to be like Him and if we are to imitate Him, then we in fellowship should be pursuing intimacy with our friends, with other believers, in discipleship with people. So if you choose distance, then you have chosen how far your affection will go. You have chosen what you will and what you won't do for someone. Because let me tell you, when you're in love, when you understand the value and depth of friendship, I'm not talking about compromise and I'm not talking about sin, but I'm saying that you will do something for someone that you love that you normally wouldn't do for anyone else. You will go a distance that you wouldn't go. Let me tell you about going distances. I know some people who would hop on a plane and fly across the country to be with someone when they need it. That is the cost of friendship, the depth and the sacrifice of intimacy. But when you choose distance, then you've effectively chosen what's clean and what's unclean, and you've labeled someone a leper and decided to cast them out without even the decency of confronting them and telling them why. Here's the thing. In Christian discipline, as we saw with Paul, and the guy who's sleeping with his mother-in-law, and he said, get together, my spirit will be with you. I testify, I'm backing you up, I'm covering you. Kick him out. Deliver him into Satan's hands so that he will feel the effects of his sins, that he will have to pay some measure of consequence, that he will answer for his actions. But it didn't end there. That's the important part. In the next book, it doesn't say anything. 2 Corinthians doesn't say anything about the man repenting or that he made it right. Well, I mean, we're assuming that he repented. But what I'm saying is it didn't specifically say that these people needed to do something, or that they needed to see a certain fruit out of this person's life. It said, restore him lest he be swallowed up with grief. So that tells me that if someone is excommunicated, disciplined, perhaps it is just for a season, so that when you bring them back into the assembly, you have another chance to confront them, to bring them into a new level or a new position of obedience. And maybe they don't learn. Maybe it does end up that you have to permanently remove them if they don't change. But what I'm saying is, if you never try the disciplinary route first, and you just cold shoulder them, you've effectively chosen how far your witness will go. That's all I got.